Hey, this is Matthew from NGG Canada. We have a very special guest. He's been nominated for an Emmy for Westworld and one of my favorite shows, Mandalorian. Please welcome to the show, Michael Uwandi. Welcome to the
Hey
show,
everybody.
brother.
Yeah. Nice to see y'all. Nice to see y'all.
And where are you calling from us today?
Calling from Los Angeles, California, and just got back and about to leave again.
Always on a plane.
Yeah, never stops.
All right. No, the constant traveler, I guess, right?
Always, always. But it's what I like to do anyway, so can't complain, right?
Yeah. Michael is the owner of 9B Collective. I'll let him talk about, all the companies he works with. So tell us about your studio and what 9B Collective does.
Yeah, so 9B Collective is a studio made up primarily of BIPOC artists. For the most part, I've been in the industry for about 8 years. And really, throughout the industry as a whole, we don't really see much diversity. Knowing for myself, I struggled to get into the industry. Like, it was so tough finding a way into the industry because most of the time it's based on who you know, right? And then usually based on who you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, this person shares a similar culture. They connect automatically and then they kind of hook each other up. And one of the things was like, I recognized that that was an issue. And I always said that I never want someone else to go through what I went through because for me, I just happen to have like insane endurance and perseverance, but most people don't have that. And something I've seen time and time again while in school even is like there's, artists from the BIPOC community who would be so like kind of fired up, obviously, while they're in school and inspired. And then when they get out of school, they recognize that they're not getting picked up the same. And so then that fire kind of dwindles and dwindles. And so either they leave the industry completely, or when they finally get their opportunity, they're like kind of a shell of themselves. And so I want to make sure that like I at least brought that and like recognizing someone's potential rather than just their experience of what they've done. Because a lot of times when people are picked up, it's like, oh, did you work on this? Did you work on that? And people don't want to take that chance. And as an artist myself, I feel like I should have a pretty good eye on that, and just be like, oh, well, this person has a lot of potential. And potential isn't just their skill set, but it's also the energy, the personality, the hunger that comes with that. And so recognizing that if I wanted to, I could just like kind of help kind of cultivate these artists and like build them up and eventually let them go out into the field. And therefore we can get just different content, whether it's different all around content or even just different design. Because a lot of times, as you can imagine, it's like, say, for example, if everyone's into anime, right? And eventually, if they're all digging from the same pot of inspiration, then things eventually start to look the same. So why not widen the pot and just kind of like allow each other to kind of all dig in and like have different takes on things. I think that we all kind of desire it at this point, especially based on some of the films that we've seen that have been like the same movie over and over again, the same design over and over again. It's just like let's open it up a little bit for everyone.
Yeah, we need a variety. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm with you there. You can't have the same cookie all the
Yeah.
time.
It's just too much. It's just too much. And, it's just also really cool because, say, for example, we worked on a project called Blue Beetle that's coming out. And, for that project, the superhero is a Latin artist. Latin superhero. So we primarily hired Latin artists. And it was crazy seeing what happens when, like, they don't have to do all the research because it's already like a lived-in experience. And they got from point A to point B so fast because they were able to skip like whole like parts of like the design process to just have fun with it. And that was like one of those things where it's like, okay, we're definitely doing the right thing because they already understand the culture aspect. They just have to have fun. And it was just really interesting to, it also seems like the internet seems to like the costume quite a bit. Yes. So it was like really cool to see like the outcome of that.
That's cool. And so challenges in your industry, one of them would be the natural matchmaking when you get a project and fitting in the right artist.
Oh
You go through
yeah.
that process for the viewers?
Yeah, definitely. So like, say for example, different directors have different personalities, right? And luckily, I am one of three co-founders for the company. And so we all happen to be very different. And, you know, it's as simple as like recognizing like if I talk to you, me and you seem to get along really well, but then maybe, you know, my other partner, you might not like gel as well. And so it's kind of like a language, like everyone kind of has like a design language. And when you talk with the director and then they're just telling you what they're looking for, it's my job to like kind of poke and prod as to like what they really want, because a lot of times people don't have the verbiage to actually communicate what they want to see in a design. They just know like, oh, I want it to look cool and I want it to be inspirational. I want it to look like nothing I've ever seen before, but they don't actually have the proper verbiage. So it's up to me to usually like poke and prod and say like, okay, well, you want this, you like that, da, 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 and like kind of put whatever they're saying into cohesive words. Then from there, I think about the roster, which we have about like 100 artists worldwide that we can like kind of pick from. And I'll say, okay, this person looks like the perfect artist that I can think of when it comes to this design task. And so then I'll usually hire a team, because one of the big things about 9B as well is we kind of want to build a community. So like sometimes I say on Mandalorian or Supergirl, I'm by myself in a white room, like with white walls, just like drawing by myself, right? And there's no like bouncing ideas, there's no inspiration but myself. Whereas if you're, say, at Marvel, you're working with a team of artists. And so the level keeps going higher and higher each week because you're with some of the best artists in the world, almost competing, but happy competition for a project. So we do that within the community and building a community per team. So sometimes we can have up to like, you know, between 1 to like 5 people, 6 people on a team, all designing concepts for a specific job or gig. And once they turn that in, we get their first assignments, usually like weekly, sometime bi-weekly, but mostly weekly. We turn them into the director or the producer. They give us a thumbs up and we just keep on going, either iterating on that same concept or building out the whole world, designing other concepts.
That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So to see the difference between the different companies, to enlighten that world for us, that's quite remarkable. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Going in, we didn't know, you know, we just play the video games.
Right.
We watch the movies. We don't know everything behind the scenes, knowing that there's teams of people. But you just said the differences between different companies and how you work in one room versus working in a team who can inspire you to elevate in a friendly competition, which is what I'd see most you'd like.
Oh yeah,
better.
Artists are crazy. They're like kind of competitive, and like some of the, like in a happy way, sometimes not always happy, but they're very competitive. So it's fun when you can create like a inspiring community that are like cheering each other on, and then you see like sometimes this cool dynamic where like person A like killed it week 1, and then person B maybe like did okay, and then person B gets inspired by person A, and then they kill it. And there's just like this constant, like, you know, growth within the artist. And I think one of the fun parts for me is like, I've always wanted to be a teacher. And so I recognize that like through art direction, I technically am a teacher. And it's really fun kind of seeing the artists grow week to week as they proceed through a project. And even like past the project, it's like really cool because you're like, damn, I remember when you first started, you were like, okay, and then now you're like amazing. It's just really cool when you get to see someone's potential and like see them live it out.
That's awesome. Yeah. So your company is divided, and so your background is in costume as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you do costume design.
Yeah, so I do costume. I do kind of a little bit of everything, but costume is like my main bread and butter. But for the company, we do costume, we do environments, we do theme parks, we do props, we do graphic design, motion graphics. We kind of have like we cover almost everything except we don't animate.
Right.
Because that's a different type of hard work. We even have comic book artists, things like that. So we have a lot of like really talented people, kind of even up to 3D artists, even going across the board. The one thing we don't animate, because that's like a lot of work and it's a lot of man hours. And we just don't know how to navigate that space. But we do have partner companies that we work with who do animate. So we just like, if we ever have like a project where they're like, hey, we need you guys to animate, we just pass it to the other company.
Okay, no, that's good. Now, one topic that I wanted to discuss with you is AI.
Yeah.
And I know, from our news, we know how it's affecting the music industry. How is it affecting your industry? And are you worried about it, or do you think it can be regulated in the future, and how so?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, because I feel like definitely the cat's out the bag with AI. Like, it's out there, and there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. However, I do think it could be regulated quite a bit, because one of the things with AI that's happening, that's like not even just me personally, but I think like the majority of artists that they really like are not happy with is, there's a prompt. These prompters create prompts, and they can do it in the style of anyone. So they can literally say, I want to make Cloud Strife, or I want to make a warrior, but I want it to be in the style of Matthew, right? And they can literally take your style that you built your whole life to do, and then just plop it and like keep on doing that. And so it's even to the point where you see the signature sometime of the artist on the image, like kind of cobbled together, because basically what the AI programs do is they take from all over the internet and cobble up other people's art into one cohesive image, which is kind of like messed up. By kind, I mean very, and the artists don't get paid for that, right? So it's like you're literally taking someone's work and making it and using it for whatever benefit. It's just kind of unfair. And so there's like whole roles that are going away because of the AI jobs. Like, I remember I was working with someone, and they were like in charge of like Rock Nation. No, I forgot, not Rock Nation, but one of the concert companies. And I was like, hey, like, what do you guys do for illustrators when it comes to illustrators for like some of your backdrops and stuff? And they're like, oh, we just use AI now. I was like, that was a whole job. Like, now, so you cut the human out and you just put a computer AI program on that. That's like not really, that sucks, and there's a lot of other like things like in the video game space, as well as like films, where they're utilizing AI to kind of, get rid of the artist and just have like someone who just types in words and they come up with an image, four prompts, and it comes up with an image. It just kind of sucks.
It's pretty scary,
Yeah.
and it definitely, yeah, I can see the fear, for the industry.
Right.
It's already hitting manufacturing sectors, like with robotics for, decades with car manufacturing. So we're seeing now it's coming into this sector. So
Man,
I think we have to regulate it to save people's jobs. I'm with you on this one. So on more positive things in the world. So what games are you looking forward to playing? I can imagine you're a PlayStation person, like us. We have both, but I can see the benefits of both. What games are you looking forward to playing coming out in 23, 24?
Ooh, and anyone who knows me knows I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 16. That's what I'm so amped for Final Fantasy 16. I'm a big Final Fantasy nerd since the dawn of time. I don't want to tell my age here, but I've been a huge Final Fantasy nerd for the longest. I'm also looking forward to the latest Spider-Man game and a new Wolverine game. Really amped for those as well. There was another game that I was really hyped about, but I keep forgetting the name because they keep like saying they're gonna make it and then they're not. It was basically like a pixelated Blade Runner game. I forgot what it's called, but it was like so dope. They showed it like years ago, and then they said it's supposed to come out this year, but
like many games get delayed.
Exactly, yeah.
Polishing.
Yep, polishing, exactly.
You can't do that. If a costume's late, it doesn't make the movie. You can't polish that. I mean, right? So the game can take a little bit longer.
What do they say? Finished is better than perfect, right? So it's like, long as it's done, that's all they care about.
No, that's cool. Yeah, we're looking forward to these games too. And then we're getting Jedi Survivor coming out on Friday.
Oh yeah, man. I'm like finding no time. I'm still like playing like Xenoblade 3 and like all these other games. Like I'm like,
well, you travel a lot too, so you don't have time. You don't have time like us where we have to dedicate 6 hours a day. My partner tries to get platinum in every single game. I just wish Sony would actually give money value to the platinum, because if you're playing if you get platinum, you get $500 US.
Yeah,
you know how many more gamers would actually play? You know, just for the advantage of getting platinum and the self-respect that you get for getting platinum. But if you actually attach a monetary value to getting platinum, Sony, if you're listening, you know, that's what you want to do, you know, to get more people playing hours.
You just reminded me, another game I'm really amped for is Street Fighter 6.
Oh yes, the fighting, and Tekken. Do you like Tekken?
Dude, that's probably the dopest looking Tekken I've seen in a minute. Like, I've always been someone who likes watching people play Tekken, but not playing myself. That's the one that I'm like, I'm buying this one. It just looks so dope. Like, even the trailer that they had was so badass. The first one for Tekken 8, I was like, this looks amazing.
Yeah, and we're with you on Final Fantasy, because I've never actually played a Final Fantasy myself, but this one looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, here's the question, because we were on a recent podcast and I asked the guys and they kind of had like their mouths dropped. But since you play different games, now on the PlayStation controller, do you like having, when you're playing Final Fantasy games, do you like having to hit a button first, you know, a D-pad, and then hit X or square for block, compared to when you're playing, for example, when you're going to play Spider-Man, they don't have a control preset like that. So you have to get used to a different control set with Final Fantasy. Do you like one or the other?
It doesn't really matter for me, I think, just because I basically place it within the context of the game. So like for Final Fantasy, I mean, remembering that at one point it was like slow, like you like just back and forth, almost like chess. It's like this evolution is like fine to me.
Okay.
I guess if I was someone who like didn't play Final Fantasies and like we're just used to like real-time gameplay, I would probably feel a way about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it looks like a beautiful game though, the Final Fantasy. We'll probably play it. I'm just gonna have to get used to that kind of button mechanic versus button mashing when you're playing games.
It's a slow evolution from the turn-based gameplay, basically.
Right. Yeah. And then so I'll get on a hot topic. Seems all the YouTubers are talking about this now. Something that you don't care about so much as a designer is the frames per second. It seems like any game that has lower than 30 is harped on. You know, and it makes YouTubers happy. You know, like the news, you know, talking about politicians. But I mean, it's the same thing in the game industry, this FPS drama. But what's your opinion on this, the 30 versus 60 for games? Does it really make a difference?
Yeah, it doesn't really make a difference for me. Like I said, I take the games as they are. I mean, I always, of course, love a 60 FPS game, but if I don't, as long as it's not below 30, because when it starts feeling choppy and stuff like that, I'm not really a fan. I just, more so for me personally, I care about fluidity. That's like all I care about. So, and I get used to whatever game I'm playing, especially since my time is so like up and down. I just have to get used to a specific game at a time. So as long as it feels good, I'm cool. But I'm not someone who harps on it too hard, to be honest with you.
Yes, you take it as it comes, and then other people are more sensitive about it. And then the companies come out with 30 and then they bounce back with 60 because they listen to us.
Yeah, they definitely do though.
They should know better.
Yeah,
they're the designers.
Yeah.
They're the designers. They give us what we want. It's not the other way around. But then you hit the Reddit forums, and then I guess the companies, you know, they polish the games that way. So it's an intricate, you know, framework of design, what you do as well. And I was on your site. It's very beautiful work that you do, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Talk about the outreach that you do to empower the Black youth around the world. That was quite remarkable.
Yeah. through myself as well as 9B, have traveled all around the world at this point. I started off, my first go-to was in the inner city, LA. But then eventually I went to places like South Africa, Johannesburg, and Cape Town, and just like kind of enhancing or trying to inspire the youth, because there's something that I recognize, like for myself as a kid. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and I was kind of a rarity in the sense of like, I kept drawing. Like I feel like all kids start off drawing when they're young. But eventually they stop because it's no longer, especially in our time, like it's no longer cool, or, you know, whatever reason. And they're not aware that it's actually like a spot of income eventually, right? Like this is a career for some people. And I think like one of the things that I recognize is like, I stopped for 10 years drawing around high school. And then I got back into it, but it's only because I had such a good foundation of like drawing when I was young that I was able to hop back in. But most people, they see it and then they're like, oh, well, I didn't think I could do anything with it. So I just didn't, I stopped. Right. And it's like, I want to inspire people to recognize like, well, if you see that I exist, then you know as a kid that it's possible. And also recognizing like, hey, this is not just a spot for growth in a sense of drawing. Maybe you're just a creative person who doesn't draw, but there's a spot for you too. And there's always a job for every single thing. It's just we don't always recognize it. We recognize like there's comic books and there's people who animate, both really hard jobs, but maybe that's not your spot and there's something open for you. Like my mom, she used to be into fashion, for instance. And because of that, I'm kind of into it. But then I also draw. And I would just draw my sketchbook, not knowing about any kind of job. And one of my friends were like, hey, what you're doing, you're a costume illustrator. And I was like, what's that? He's like, yeah, you're a concept artist. You're just making stuff. That's a job. I had no idea. Right. So it's like wherever you think, whatever you enjoy doing, there's always a spot for you somewhere. You just have to find it. So I just want to inspire people to know that it's all a possibility. And also inspiring the parents, because most of the times the parents are the ones who kind of tear down the kids to stop doing that as well. So just want to inspire, just let them know that it's possible.
That's awesome. That's a great inspiration for the world. And I commend you on this adventure.
Thank you.
Traveling around the world. Thank you so much, Michael. You've been a pleasure to speak with. I wish you best in the movie industry. We want you to win.
Thank you.
I know you can. It's going to be one day. We'll
yes, please.
Like, I know that guy.
Thanks so much.
That's awesome. Thanks for being on the show. On behalf of Ari and myself, we'd like to thank you very much.